All right, all right. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Good evening. All right. What's up, Mr. Phil Fox, Mr. Green, my
Phil
brother,
Feezy,
my brother Alejandro. What's up? What's good?
Mr.
Richly.
Green in the building.
Amen, most excellent Theophilus. I like that name. It is good to see the same people up in here. What's up, Dikala?
I'm gonna share this to Facebook right quick as we get it popping.
All right.
Y'all know what it is, man. Hit that like button, the share button.
Absolutely. Appreciate y'all's help and helping me get to that next level. And just make sure you share this so we can keep going. Not for my sake, but truth is at an all-time is under an all-time attack.
Yeah.
And so we wanna push back on that.
Yeah, man. Oh, so that's right. You passed the thousand the
Yeah,
thousand mark, right?
yes, sir.
Hey, congratulations, brother.
Thank you, bro.
Congratulations. Am I the first guest to be on since you passed 1,000?
Yeah, you sure are.
Hey, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
No, that's dope, man. I know you've been grinding, man, and putting a lot of hard work, bro. You know, the conversations we've had and stuff like that. You've been out here getting it, man. Always looking to up your game and get great content out there. So, man, you're doing a great job, bro. That's dope. That's dope. Congratulations, bro.
appreciate that, man. Hey, guess what that is? My first
Hey,
ever.
there it is. There it is.
Hey, man. Hey, Phil, thank you for being number one, man.
There he is.
Number one super chat. First super chat of my life. It's funny. It's crazy.
That's great, man.
Yeah, man. Mr. Phil Fox. Make sure while we have that up there, I need to shout him out. Make sure y'all go support my man's channel as well.
Oh yeah.
Because he has great content. He's been grinding at this a lot longer than I have. And I appreciate him and his demeanor. He has that voice, man. That he speaks truth, but he does it so nice and gentle.
You know what, man? I've decided Phil Fox.
Thank you, Miss.
Phil Fox is the Barry White of urban apologetics. He's just got that golden voice, man.
He does,
actually,
man.
I don't know if he's Barry White or Lou Rawls. It's got to be one of them. You know, just that smooth, you know what I mean, golden voice, man. He's that dude, man. He's that dude.
He is, man. And yeah, so I appreciate all of the support. So let's get into this with all the pleasantries aside. Make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you never miss a video, interview, or any other content such as what we have tonight. For those that are new, my goal here is to help everybody enter into a confirmed, confident, and eternal relationship with the source of all life and purpose, which is the one, the only, the triune God. Now, I don't think this video we're going to show and kind of go through is new, but it popped back up. And, when that happens, that means it's new to somebody. And that means these kind of bad ideologies and theologies or philosophies are still out there alive and well. We understand that this kind of new age, mysticism, this guru kind of world we live in, it's a breeding ground for stuff like this that we're going to show. And so I think you could see from the thumbnail that Mr. KRS One is, I won't say he's on trial. It's just, there's some things we got to clean up. And I hope lovingly that this catches his ear, because we're not going to spend a whole lot of time debunking Illuminati and Freemasons. We can do that at a different date. We'll touch on that. But the real issue is philosophical. Y'all know me. It's like my skin itches. Bad philosophy, bad epistemology. Those things make me cringe, because the reality is, it doesn't matter about your worldview. There's rules to this. I did a video a few months ago called "There's Rules to This," but that was about hermeneutics. But the bottom line is, I don't make the rules. There are rules that whether you're Kant, whether you're Hume, whether you're Ehrman, whether you're William Lane Craig, like we all have to play by the same philosophical rules. And when you make philosophical errors, that is detrimental to all those who are listening, especially when they're looking to you as their prophet or guru or whatever you want to call it. So anything real quick, Adam, before I start to play the video. Thank you, Mr. Green. You've been such a huge support, and I appreciate you from day one, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, Mr. Green's that dude, man. No, I mean, I think what you said is excellent, man. And for me, what I find interesting about this video, so on the one hand, I'm not exactly sure when the video came out, but like you mentioned, I don't think it's new. But at the same time, I feel like the urban apologetics community, we're playing catch up because for so long, people were able to just say whatever about Christianity, excuse me, without any sort of, pushback, you know what I mean? And so you've had the kinds of ideas, the kinds of inferences and like you said, bad philosophy, bad epistemology that we'll see in this video. We've had that floating around in our community since forever. And I think this video really kind of captures some of that. So I think it's so important to cover it. And if you don't mind, I mean, I just got to give my 2 cents on what I think we're seeing happening. Now, KRS One is a little bit of a different case because he's actually been doing speaking tours and speaking engagements for quite a while. But in general, when you look at hip hop, you know what I'm saying? It's a thing now to have some of the rappers that we grew up listening to in the 80s, 90s, or what have you. Particularly in the 90s, I say in the early 2000s, dudes are starting to get opportunities to share their ideas in different ways, i.e. via like podcasts. That's like a real big thing. You know what I mean? So you got like the Expeditiously podcast with T.I. You got the brother, what's the cat name? I've interviewed him before. I can't. David Banner. You got the David Banner podcast. You got, Noriega's got a podcast. Joe Budden. I mean, all these different guys have podcasts. And so I think what you're seeing is like this different phase of hip hop where dudes are not only able to communicate through their music, but they're now given opportunities to communicate on a broader scale through their platforms, having like this different kind of a phase. I just think it's an interesting phenomenon. But what's funny is this though, like for somebody like myself, it's almost like, how they say like don't meet your heroes. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like they're saying like this era of hip hop. When I think about guys like a Talib Kweli and listen to this podcast, like what I'm sensing is like, dang, man, you know what? Like these dudes that I grew up on, thinking was like so deep, you know what I mean? And just like I was like, I mean, I used to soak this stuff up. I mean, I was that guy who was listening to Wu-Tang, every day, all day. I was that guy that was listening to Rockers Records or Boogie Down Productions, BDP, you know what I mean? Was Boot Camp Click, stuff like that. Yeah. I mean, I was that guy. So the stuff that I thought was like, yeah, man, that's deep. You know what I mean? I used to hear on the records. Now, when I look back on it, and I've done my own study, and I mean, this is what we do. We do this for real. You know what I mean? Like now, I look at it, I'm like, these guys really wasn't what I thought it was. You know what I mean? And now to hear them communicate things that are like elementary basic errors, it's like, dang, you know what I mean? It's just not what I thought it was. You know what I mean? So I say all the time, you can't build a strong community on a foundation of weak ideas. And I think that's why it's all the more important to address these kind of things in the culture, because this is the same kind of stuff you're going to hear at your average barbershop. This is barbershop talk. You always had that one brother who's considered to be, deep and knowledgeable. And a lot of times he start breaking stuff down. And the only reason he's considered deep and knowledgeable because he's just getting over on everybody else who just, haven't read as much as he has. So I think it'd be interesting.
With that being said, we're going to try to divide this up in clips. It's only a 12-minute clip, but quite a bit to say. So here we go.
One question, you were speaking about why haven't they killed you yet or things like that. I want to speak about Illuminati and if you believe in that, if it's infiltrated hip hop. And a lot of people say like Jay-Z, Kanye West, they have affiliations with that. And when you reach a certain level in hip hop, that they approach you. I'm wondering if anybody has approached you on that, if you're working with them, because some people I've heard say they believe KRS One is a Mason or something like that. And if you didn't mind speaking on that and what your thoughts are.
Yeah, well, where do I start? No, I'm not a Mason. Let's start there. I studied study Freemasonry. I've known Freemasons all my life. They trust me with their secrets. They trust me with their symbols. They trust me with their knowledge. I'm considered a 33-degree Master Mason, but I'm not a Mason. I'm sort of what you would call an honorary member because I understand the truth. Masonry is not the Illuminati. Freemasonry is, or was, it originally started off as what science would be called today. Back in the days,
actually, can you stop it right there? My bad. You know, as he's kind of getting into, describing, the history of Freemasonry and Illuminati as he understands it. I want to key on something he said. You know what I mean? He said that, and matter of fact, let me bring up a slide. He said that he's an honorary Mason because he understands, quote, the truth, right?
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was interesting. Because that presupposes that there is a truth to be understood. Like there's a such thing as truth.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I know this is in your wheelhouse. You deal with this all the time. Obviously, Proof for the Truth Conference and that kind of stuff. So I just want to talk about that real quick because one of the things I want to highlight in this video is some of the kinds of thinking that I think deters many in our community from attaining truth. So let me just share something on that real quick.
Yep.
All right, let me do that. Make sure I'm bringing up the. Okay. Boom. All right, is that up there? Is it sharing or not? Mm-hmm. Oh, okay, there we go. All right, cool. So I'm actually going to go back a slide because I'm on the wrong slide here. Oops. There we go. All right, cool. So he says, I'm an honorary Mason because I understand the truth. Like I know the truth. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not the biggest scholar on Masonry. I don't really spend a lot of time studying it. It just kind of doesn't really fall in the vein of stuff that I typically spend a lot of time on. It sounds a little bit far-fetched to me that you could be an honorary Mason. Like that doesn't sound legit to me. But I mean, I could be wrong about that. Maybe it's a thing. Maybe you can be. I can't. They don't seem like the kind of organization that's handing out, like honorary. It's like honorary degrees in Masonry or something like that. I mean, I could be wrong about that, but we'll just go with it. Maybe so. I could be wrong about that. But nevertheless, when you think about truth, what is truth? There are different philosophies on what the truth is. Some hold to what's called a correspondence theory, which I'll get into in a second. Some hold to a coherence theory. There's different perspectives on what the truth is. I think the best, definition of the truth, very simple, is that which corresponds to reality. Simple. You know what I'm saying? If I say that 2 + 2 = 5, that's not true. Because when you take those quantities represented by those numbers, right, and you put them together, they don't equal to 5, right? The 2 + 2 doesn't actually equal 5. It doesn't align with reality, right? So, likewise, if I say that the Bible was written in 325 AD, the Council of Nicaea, that's not true. Not just because I'm a Christian, I don't want it to be true. Not because I'm trying to hide something about Christianity. It's not true because we have plenty of evidence, including fragments of papyri and so on and so forth that date prior to that put the Bible before 325 AD. Like, so we've got good reason to think that's kind of silly that Christianity or the Bible was written in 325 AD. So that that claim that Christianity was written, the Bible was written in 325. It doesn't align with reality. I'm saying, as represented by arguments and evidence to the contrary. So when he says that he understands the truth, then again he's presupposing that these Masons and he are privy to something that corresponds with reality. And I want to know, okay, well, how do you know that? That becomes my next question. Mm-hmm. Did you want to say something like that before on that?
No, because I just want everybody to see this is going to be a singular thread kind of. Even Mira was talking about question begging. We're gonna pull that one out again because, but keep going.
Right. No, cool. That's what's up. I mean, yeah, you're right. I think this does kind of carry throughout the whole video. But that being said, if he's saying that there is a truth, and the reality is most people are making truth claims, whether they do it intentionally or not. Very few people are super disciplined and making no truth claims. Even if they're saying something like there are no truth claims or truth claims can't be known, one way or the other, people are making truth claims.
Yeah.
So if we're treating truth as the target, right, we want to know, okay, well, if there is a truth and that's something to be attained, then the question then becomes, is knowledge of the truth attainable, right? So if it exists, if there is a truth out there, can we know it, right? Now, obviously, KRS One assumes that we can. And I think most people do, because if you're claiming to, if you're making truth claims, and that presupposes that you know the truth about any particular issue, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, the question then becomes, if the truth exists and there's a way that we can know it, what is the best way? And I think that's where we run into trouble. I'm saying, because most of us will agree that something is true. I'm saying there are truths out there to be known. Most people believe and agree that there's ways that we can attain it to varying degrees. You know what I mean? Where we, I think, mess up is, how do we attain it? What is the pathway to hitting that target, hitting the bullseye, and really landing on truth? And I think this goes back to something you said a second ago about bad philosophy. There's rules to this, right? When you're dealing with science, like in a lab, right?
Right.
If you're doing an experiment, the laws of nature constrain what's going to go on in that experiment. You know what I'm saying? That's what the laws of nature do. I mean, like, you're not going to find a dude in a lab, floating around, flying or something like that on his own. That's probably not going to happen. There are regularities that keep that in check. Likewise, when it comes to philosophy, that's another branch of knowledge. And just like science, there are things that constrain, that give us bumpers, if you will, and guides to how we can attain truth. That's what the field of philosophy is all about.
Right.
And so those guides would include things like not engaging in fallacious reasoning. Not making hasty generalizations, not making sound inferences, if you will.
Yeah.
All those things go into how we attain truth. These things matter, and I think that as we'll see in a minute, as we kind of pace our way through, that's where we're going to see some real gaps and missteps, is in terms of the types of inferences and steps to attaining truth, where he's got some missteps rather, and then that's how you end up with these crazy conclusions. And then, if we wanted to, we could get into a little epistemology in terms of what is knowledge anyway, and how do we know things. But that might come up in a little bit.
No, definitely keep that on deck, because that's definitely going to come back in.
Cool.
Let me let him share a little bit more of his thoughts, and then we will resume the chop up. All right.
There were several sects that knew the truth, and they would put that truth into whatever craft they were practicing at the time. So first you have men and women that make boats, and they make these boats to sail. So they create what is called maritime law, the law of the sea. And there's a gentleman named Jason Whitley, as well as Jordan Maxwell, that speaks. Actually, Jordan Maxwell speaks extensively on this. That in an ancient sense, those who made ships would put spiritual knowledge into the concept of shipbuilding. So you would get God as a ship. God's inner would be the hull. The mind is the sails. And we are on the stage of life, sailing, sort of like an old Freemason or Masonic poem is, row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. That's the secret, if you can comprehend what I just said. But the point is that secrets are put into the craft of the teacher. The teacher does not blatantly tell you, this is the truth. You won't even understand it. What the teacher does is put the truth in the craft that the teacher is practicing. So you have shipbuilding, and you get this whole philosophy, which is really all of Egyptian mythology based on ships, water, because that was their craft, that was what that was. Then you go a little further down, and you get, actually, right here in California, on Wilshire Boulevard, there's a major Masonic temple there. And on the outside of the temple, they show you the Pharaoh Akhenaten handing over to a Greek philosopher the truth. And that Greek philosopher handing it off to someone else. And that's right there on Wilshire Boulevard. You should go look at it.
Word.
This is where Freemasons get their knowledge handed to them from the Pharaoh of Egypt, Akhenaten, who is one of the special pharaohs, because Akhenaten is the one that didn't believe in the old Egyptian ways. He said there is a new way to approach God, and told everybody that God was the Son. And we're not going to get into Christianity and all of that later, but this was first Akhenaten. Now, I mentioned all of that just to draw a wedge between Freemasonry and Illuminati. The Illuminati is a different group. May have been part of, some of them may have been Freemasons, but Freemasonry is about the building of man as Solomon's temple. As Solomon builds his temple, this is how you should be building yourself. And as one of Solomon's temples, you are also building the world to be a better place. That's Freemasonry. Illuminati is a group of scientists that were against the church, and the church was against them. Some 17th century philosophers called themselves the illuminating ones, the ones who bring light into the world. They were scientists that were saying basically that the Bible is not the whole truth. That, like a guy like Sir Francis Bacon, who everybody believes is the true writer for Shakespeare. Francis Bacon, actually, there's a movie coming out now, October 28th, called Anonymous.
Shakespeare was a fraud.
That Shakespeare was a fraud. This is a Masonic law that's getting ready to be revealed. But this guy, Francis Bacon, is the one who was believed to be the original writer of Shakespeare. Francis Bacon would be somebody you would say is part of the Illuminati.
Right.
Not a bad group. The Illuminati has nothing to do with evil, nothing to do with all of that. The Illuminati is a group, well, the first group is a group of philosophers, a group of scholars that are not looking at reality based on the church. They're looking at it based on what we now call science. The other Illuminati is a group of bankers that start with the Rothschilds. And there were one Rothschild, there was 5 sons. And each Rothschild controlled a part of Europe. One son was England, one son was France, one son was Spain, one son was Germany. And they started a banking system in Europe, the Rothschilds. It was a Jewish family. Started a banking conglomerate throughout Europe, lending money, making money on money. And their banking practice got so big that they began to finance governments. The bank began to finance wars and other things like that. And so this group of bankers got slapped with the term Illuminati. Bilderberg Corporation, which is his own Trilateral Commission. These are all committees and groups of nerds that want you to believe they are someone for you to fear. Those that know the truth know what the Illuminati is. You know what Freemasonry is. In fact, you know that the only reason you can even speak the word Freemasonry and Illuminati is because the true secret society is operating on us right now, and you do not know.
All right, let me
wow, that's a lot, man.
I know. I want to let it play because I don't want. Otherwise, I'm gonna stop every minute. Okay. Oh, let me give a bit of history first, because, like I said, we're not. The point here tonight is not to debunk Freemasonry and Illuminati. It's been done, I believe, and we can do that some other time. But we're gonna debunk bad philosophy. But I do want to share just some information, historical information about. I'm with you, Shadi. That's what I said. Hope everybody can see this. So, the Illuminati was a secret society formed in Bavaria, now part of modern day Germany, that exists. So he was close to 1776 to 1785. And his members originally referred to themselves as perfectibilists. And the group was inspired by the ideals of the Enlightenment and founded by professor of canon law, Adam Weishaupt. So he wanted to promote the education of reason and philanthropy and oppose superstition and religious influence in society. So he sought to change the way states in Europe were run, removing the influence of religion from government and giving people a new source of illumination. And it's believed that the Bavarian Illuminati first meeting was held in a forest near Ingolstadt in May 1776. Let me skip down. So the Freemasons are a fraternal order. I think somebody put that in the chat too, that evolved from the guilds of stonemasons and cathedral builders of the Middle Ages. And in some countries, especially the US, there has historically been a lot of paranoia about the Freemasons, even, governmental regulation to try to debunk them or get rid of them. And due to the original Illuminati recruitment of Freemasons, so the two groups have often been confused for each other. So KRS was right on some things here, that they're not the same, if Illuminati even exists, at least in the way that people currently think about it. So originally, there was a Christian emblem, the all-seeing eye. This is something else that I learned was stolen actually from Christianity. Not that we need that, but it's been used in paintings to represent God's watchfulness over humanity. So in the 18th century, it began to be used in new ways. For example, in Jean-Jacques Francois Lebarbier's The Declaration of the Rights of Man, and of the Citizen, an illustrated version of the human rights document adopted by France's National Constituent Assembly. Here is depicted an instrument of paternalistic reason, keeping a watchful eye over the newly democratic nation. There's no official link between the all-seeing eye and the Illuminati. The proposed connection probably stems from the fact that the original group shared similarities with the Freemasons, who used the image as a symbol of God, which is ironic because they're trying to debunk God. That's another story. Some people believe the Illuminati controls the world today, and this is where all the conspiracy theories come in, suggesting that there's this secretive, they're so secretive that few are aware of it, which, real quick, while I'm thinking about it, so he knows so much about them, but doesn't even know who they are or how they're operating on us because we can't see them, but you're certain of your stuff. Okay. As many members of the Illuminati infiltrated the Freemasons and vice versa, it's difficult to judge between the Illuminati's success. So most historians, however, believe the original group only gained moderate influence. And one more. In 1784, Theodore, Duke of Bavaria, banned the creation of any kind of society not previously authorized by law. And the following year, he passed a second edict, which expressly banned the Illuminati. During the arrest of suspected Illuminati members, they found compromising documents. So they're not that secret. And they had stuff on atheism and suicide and abortions, on how to do abortions, rather. And this cemented the belief that the group was a threat to both the state and the church. And so the Illuminati then seems to have disappeared, with some believing that it continued underground. And then you got all the, people think it's Jay-Z and Beyonce are in it, and we're not going to get into all that. So I'm going to turn it to you. Let me just say a couple things. With regards to truth about what? And Adam set it up beautifully. How do you know, Mr. KRS, what truth is, or that you can even know truth? So that's the epistemology. How do you know they're good if you don't know who they are? Because you'll see some stuff he says later about the nature of those who are controlling and running all this stuff, that they're righteous and they're good. Well, how do you know that as an objective reality in an ontological sense if you don't know who they are because they're so secret, but you know they're there? how do you ground truth without an ontic point of reference? And so kind of what Adam was alluding to, or at least beginning to allude to, was if there's, we can talk about morality, and we don't have to really talk about that here because he's not making those claims. But if we're talking about the moral argument, one huge issue, and some prominent atheistic philosophers note this, even Dawkins and Nietzsche and Christopher Hitchens when he was alive, you can say certain things, but when you can't attach those things to an ontic point of reference, and for those that don't know what I'm saying, it means what is the objective truth you're attaching that to by which we can justify or adjudicate what is moral or what is not moral. The only place that we can speak about objective proofs, and this is widely agreed upon, tell me if I'm off here, Adam, is in math. That's the only place where we can truly say this is always the way it is. It's always this way. It's not a matter of opinion, and it's always an objective fact.
Yeah, you're talking about mathematics. When particularly if you've got, or specifically if you've got if you're working from a set of axioms, if you will,
right?
And then you can say that's attributable to like strict logic, and logic not in the sense of just thinking about things well, but like logic as in where you're mapping out arguments and using symbols and things like that. I mean, that's kind of like an extension of math. But other than that, you're right. I mean, you're not going to really run into what's like a proof or something like something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I missed somebody, Burnell. Thank you, brother, for the super chat. I'm sorry. I had the video playing and I was trying to listen to this brother. So I missed that, but I do appreciate it. So that's an important point to keep in mind too, because Christians, atheists, it doesn't matter who, people who've studied this all agree that, like Adam just said, in mathematics is a place where we can speak in a true objective sense that these are solid terms and terminology on which we can adjudicate who's right and wrong. 1 + 1 always equals 2. Like you said,
right.
5 always equals 7. So there is no deductive reasoning necessary in that arena.
Right.
But what we're going to show here is some category mistakes, which is a philosophical fallacy that KRS One makes, where you're trying to prove the veracity of one proposition based on the rules of a different category. Does it make sense? So if I'm asking which color smells better, yellow or red,
right.
Like I don't understand how to explain that.
That's nonsense, right? Yeah, right.
So here's something I want to point out real quick. If there's a secret society that had the truth and withheld it in order to maintain a power dynamic or whatever it is, they would not be righteous or all good, as KRS states. And I don't know if he's already stated or if it's in the next clip I'm going to show.
Yeah, it's coming up in the next one.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to say it anyway. Well, let me lay out. It's not really a syllogism, but it's something like that. And I'll let you. Here's the thing. If these people, Illuminati, whoever, Masons, whatever they are, if there's special people who run everything or have all the knowledge or have some level of secret knowledge, number one, when did that become true? Because whatever or whoever precedes them is still more wise, still more perfect than they are, if they even exist. And that would make these precedents more worthy of our allegiance. So if the first humans weren't the original Illuminati or Masons or whatever, then when did this special group gain this special knowledge, and where did they get it from? You see the problem? We have a state of infinite regression that has to stop somewhere. It's the same issue when you try to explain the origin of the universe. You can't just keep going back. And wherever you go back to, especially when we're talking about knowledge, what was the first group and what was that first person? And what I want everybody to see is that there's me and Adam were talking yesterday. This is kind of like a 21st century Gnosticism, which I mean that Gnostics, or gnosis, is a Greek word that means knowledge, and gurus of all kinds try to present themselves as having a special knowledge or knowledge of a special group or knowledge of, you see what I'm saying? Because then everybody listening you can't really prove them wrong, even though we're doing that right now.
right.
He might know some Masons, he might know some Illuminati or people who say they're that, but his claim is axiomatically false. So that means that it's self-evident or unquestionable in order for something to be true in that sense. In other words, it's not self-evident or evidentially provable based on the underlying proposition. So number one, these people would have to have perfect knowledge in order to know that they have perfect truth, right? No human has or has ever had perfect knowledge. No human can state emphatically that they know all truth and can disseminate or withhold that truth with perfect righteousness. Now, people are free to disagree with me, but based on those propositions, the conclusion that he's arriving at does not follow. It's a non sequitur. So he's assuming his conclusion, and as my brother Amir said in the chat, he's begging the question: how do you have access to this perfect knowledge of a group that you don't even know exists because you can't see them and don't know if they're operating on us right now?
Right.
You see the problem?
It's ridiculous, right? Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, you're right. I mean, and I'm just gonna kind of like I think I'm picking up on where you're going. I wrote down some notes as you were talking, and what's interesting is how can I put this? So let's say I told you, like, all right, yo, Alex, I had a salad for lunch today. You know what I'm saying? And now, if you want to track down whether that's true or not, if I'm saying that I was the one who had a sandwich or a salad, for lunch, I'm the kind of source from which you can really gauge that's true. Like, I'm a truthful person. Well, at least I hope you think I'm a truthful person. but I'm a relevant authority on what I had for lunch, right? Now, if I say to you, there is a such thing as objective good and evil, right? Now, I'm not an authority on whether there's good and evil or not, in the same sense that I'm an authority on whether or not I had a sandwich. Like, I was the agent that chose to have a sandwich or salad. I think it was my example. You know what I'm saying? So I was the one who chose that. I'm saying the truth of whether I had a salad or not flows from what it was that I chose to do. But morality is something transcendent. That's something that goes beyond any given person, any human person, I should say. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So if he's saying that these people have the truth, if he's referring to truths that extend beyond persons, like transcendent truths, then there's no reason to look to them as being, like the buck stops with them in terms of having the truth. That type of truth should be investigatable. I think that's a word, investigatable, as we look into reality itself. You know what I mean? So now, if that's the case, we should be able to examine, these truth claims that they have. You know what I mean? Like if they've got perfect truth, then we should be able to examine these things. And this is where it gets into worldview. I'm saying this is why it helps to have a healthy understanding of how worldviews work, because no matter who the source is, no matter what it is they claim, once they start getting into like metaphysics and some of these kind of more transcendent areas, this is where it's not, we don't need to leave it to mystery. We can investigate these things, but what's the name? KRS One has said, well, these people have the truth. And I mean, should we be moved by that? I mean, he says that they do, but we haven't investigated. We don't. I mean, why should we take it? Why should we just take his word for it?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, we just like, oh, okay, well, yeah, they got the truth. Well, I mean, I shouldn't be moved by that. That's an interesting claim. But if you're not going to give me any evidence to substantiate that, then all I have right then is conjecture. You know what I'm saying? But I think that what happens is people are moved by videos like these without being given any sort of, reason to be. I mean, he hasn't given us any reason to think that it is indeed the case that these Masons have, the truth. But that's a pretty big claim, though. You know what I'm saying? That's a pretty big claim. And yet he hasn't substantiated. So what is moving people then? And so I've got a couple ideas I wanted to share right quick.
Mm-hmm.
Did you want to say something on that first, though?
No. Go ahead.
Yeah, let me show this slide, right? Now, I'm not trying to be like, super like spooky weird here. But when it comes to philosophy, you got like some major branches. You got metaphysics, under that you have ontology, you got axiology. Going back for a second. So, metaphysics has to deal with like what is, like what's real, if you will. axiology has to do with like the value of things. Then under that, you're going to have morality and stuff like that, the study of that. That's another broad branch of philosophy. And then you're going to have epistemology, which we've mentioned already, which has to do with knowledge. What is knowledge and how can we attain it, basically, you know? So what's interesting is when you really start breaking down reality, you know, and kind of looking at it from like those lenses, a solid worldview is going to be able to make sense of those three branches of reality, if you will. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be able to make a solid worldview is going to be able to make sense of what is true, you know, what is valuable and what is knowledge and how can we know it. And what's interesting is what you find is in each of those, there are actually like intersections between the three of them. You know what I'm saying? They all kind of ebb and flow and intersect with one another. Now, I said it to say, when it comes to, you mentioned morality a second ago, there's an interesting intersection between morality and epistemology. I'm saying you have what's called epistemic virtues, right? There are oughts, if you will. There are things that you ought to do as you're seeking and trying to attain knowledge. And there are things that you ought not to do, right? There are things that will tend towards knowledge and there are things that will tend away from knowledge, right? Now, I think what we have, and again, I'm kind of going to like that barbershop mode, you know, when you got people just spitting anything. And not, you know, the brother who in there is supposed to be, you know, deep or whatever. I think what you find is there are certain infringements upon epistemic virtues, you know, and by that I mean traits of thinking that will tend towards truth. I'll put it that way. There are things that infringe upon that, particularly in the African American context. One of them, I would say, is kind of like a hyper skepticism that flows from like an anti-establishment type of movement. Now, I understand that. You know what I'm saying, if you have a people group, I'm talking about specifically African Americans, if you have a people group that have been you know, oppressed for, you know, centuries, and, you know, some of that oppression has had to do with the establishment perpetrating certain deceptions and lies, like, you know, like the Tuskegee experiments and things like that. Like, that's real stuff. Like COINTELPRO, that's real stuff. Like, those things really happen, right? Of course, you're going to develop a mistrust, right? Of course, you're going to develop a mistrust. You know, there you go. Yeah, I'm definitely getting to that. That's definitely true. So you're gonna, you know, we have a people group. We as a people, I think, have there's like this underlying mistrust for the establishment, particularly if you're being real, white establishment, you know, white sources, white academia, so on and so forth. And I think what happens is people play on that in the conscious community, particularly. They play on that and will tug on that thread to leverage it to say, okay, well, believe what I'm saying. That's why when you watch, you know, a lot of videos, they'll say things like, but what they don't tell you is ... Or what they've hid from you is ... You know what I'm saying? Like, it's tugging on that notion, like, oh yeah, something's been hid from me. You know what I'm saying? And then that's leverage it to open you up to believe whatever it is that comes in that ... But what we need to be doing is, rather than engaging in hyper skepticism, you know what I'm saying, we need to just apply sound reasoning. That's what we need to do. You know what I'm saying? The corrective for mistrust of whether it be of a system or whatever it may be is not hyper skepticism. I'm saying it's reason. So I kind of use an analogy, and you might want to come back on this, but surprise, I'm not a great cook. I'm trying, you know, particularly because, you know, I've got a number of kids now, and, you know, my wife is pregnant. I'm trying to cook better and stuff like that. But, you know, one of the things I have a tendency to do, my wife gets on me all the time, is over season stuff, because I'll be like making some spaghetti and maybe it's a little bit bland or whatever. I'm like, okay, well, I got to put a bunch of salt, or I got to put in this, I got to put in that. And then what happens is I put in so much stuff that I over season it, and then it's nasty. You know what I mean? It's not edible. You know what I mean? I do that. I'm working on it. You know, God's still working on me, y'all. But I said it to say the solution to something being under seasoned is not over seasoning, right? That's not the solution. And in the same way, the solution to legitimate reasons for distrust is not to become hyper skeptical necessarily.
Right.
The solution is to apply sound reason. And that's what we don't see so many times. I got more I can say on that, but did you want to chime in right quick? Or?
No, I'll share this now. It fits now, I guess. So I credit BK. I don't know if he's in there or not, but I saw this earlier from him. I was like, man, I'm sharing this tonight. So there's a study by Kruger and Justin Dunning, David Dunning and Justin Kruger. It says in the field of psychology, the Dunning-Kruger effect is a cognitive bias in which people mistakenly assess their cognitive ability as greater than it is. It's related to the cognitive bias of illusory superiority and comes from the inability of people to recognize their lack of ability without the self-awareness of metacognition, which is thinking about what you're thinking about. People cannot objectively evaluate their competence or incompetence. Now there's a chart here. I ain't gonna read what it says, but there's a peak at the front part there. Look, the goal here is not to make fun of people. And this is a study journal. This is high scholarship. My point is this: it's not to say, oh, we're smarter than you and this and that. That's kind of the opposite of the point. The point is, I've learned the rules. I've read and studied the rules. I have to play within the rules as well. The rules of logic, the law of non-contradiction, avoiding philosophical. I have to do that too when I'm making a case. And if I can't make my case within those confines, as Adam was talking about, then my argument failed. It is what it is. I mean, half of going through school is you work through and professors and peers push back. Well, are you sure? Because, this doesn't necessarily lead to this conclusion. What if they say that? And you got to go revise what you thought. But no one's calling this brother out to revise anything. That whole audience sitting at his feet looking at him like he's Jesus. They're not asking him to revise anything. They're looking to him as the source of all wisdom. And right. That's the problem. We need better ground level, high school level philosophical training so people can adjudicate between different worldviews, ideologies, philosophies, theologies, so that they can assess them based on an unchanging standard of how to assess truth. Coherence theory, correspondence theory, logical consist, all the stuff Adam was saying at the beginning. So we're not saying this to say, oh, we're on this side of the chart, he's on that side of the chart. That's not the point. The point is, I know my limitations, therefore I need to learn what the rules are to keep myself in line, so I'm not out here saying crazy stuff either. Simple as that's the point I'm trying to make, that we're trying to make.
And now let me piggyback on that, right? Because you're absolutely right. Now here's the thing, right? So again, I'm not the one that makes the rules. You don't make the rules. Mm-hmm. It's just that the method of coming to sound conclusions is something that's been studied for centuries, and people are constantly wrestling with how to best come to sound conclusions, right? Mm-hmm. And so I'm just gleaning, from a legitimate field of study. I'm saying we call it philosophy, right? Or be more specific, talk about logic. Now, I said it to say, when I acknowledge that there have been some real deceptions. Like we can all agree that the history has been presented in an inaccurate way, particularly here in the Western context, in such a way that the contributions of Africans to history and even African Americans to this country has been downplayed or misconstrued and mischaracterized rather, and things like that. Like we can all agree on that. Now, but that doesn't mean, that I'm going to throw away all established scholarship. It just means that I'm going to be careful as I'm combing through scholarship. That's really all it means, right? Now, if I say, matter of fact, let me bring my screen back because I think I actually addressed it on this slide here. I'll come back to the anti-Christian part, but alternative information is not always accurate information. You know what I'm saying? Just because somebody hits you with but what they don't tell you is ... That doesn't mean that what they put in the ... or fill in the blank, that doesn't mean that what they're about to say is true, right? You still need to do your due diligence and make sure you go investigate it. So for me, it's not like I'll have people say something like, let's say if I'm talking about the existence of Jesus, the historicity of Jesus, right? And they're like, oh, well, yeah, but you're appealing to white scholars. I'm like, no, it's not about the color of the scholar. It's whether or not, when I look at the work, do their inferences follow logically? I'm saying, are they giving me evidence and sound argumentation for the historicity of Jesus? If the answer is yes, then regardless of the color of the author, I've got good reason to subscribe to what it is that they're saying, what they're reporting to me. Now, on the flip side, I remember I was at I was at the gym one time, right? Now I'm super out of shape, so people might find it hard to believe I was at the gym. But I was at the gym one time, a couple of years ago, and this young guy comes up to me. He's like, "Man, I know you be on that knowledge stuff, man. I got this book right here, and I want you to check out." Right? So he hands me the book, he's just like really hyping it up. Now, mind you, the book's probably about 200 pages. Okay. Mm. So what does Adam Coleman do? I do the same thing I do with any book I receive. I look at the table of contents, try to get a feel for what it is, and then I go to the bibliography. right? Because I want to know, I'm going to the bibliography before I even comb through the pages, because I want to know what kind of work this person has done. Now, if you hand me a 200-page book, like in this case with this young brother at the gym, I go to the bibliography and I discover there is no bibliography. It's literally like a 200-page book making historical claims with no bibliography, right? So what does that tell me? I don't care what color the author is. It was a black author. I don't care.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't look at your work and see that, you know, the evidence that I need to make to draw something from your work. I can't do that. So no, I'm not going to ride with it. I don't care what the color is. And I think that's what we need to be doing. We need to understand, like, yeah, I get why you might be skeptical of this, skeptical of that. Okay, but don't check your brain at the door, though. Still apply sound reasoning to these sources that you're engaging. No, it's not what you haven't debunked Christianity in a 20-minute YouTube video. You know what I'm saying? Like you know, stuff like that. People just like, oh yeah, well, check out this video right here. No,
right.
Give me some evidence or reason, fam. You know what I'm saying? But again, it all plays like, if you already are leaning towards skepticism and in an unhealthy way, then it just makes it all easier for you to be duped by stuff. Last thing I would say, you know, and actually Shani Miller put it up early, but I say it all the time, actually. You know, the truth doesn't always make you feel good, and what makes you feel good ain't always true. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
It's that simple. A lot of times we have people, and actually I can tie in the anti-Christian part, where they associate Christianity with being part of the establishment, so they want to cast that off. And then also, you know, they want to affirm anything that's pro-African or whatever, which is, you know, hey, I'm pro-African too, whatever. You know, but not to the extent of sacrificing truth. I'm not trying to sacrifice truth on the altar of ethnicity. Mm-hmm. So the thing is, just because something scratches your ethnic itch doesn't make it true. Don't check your brain at the door. I'm saying we need to be investigating claims, man.
Man, amen on all that. So I'm gonna play this last clip. I'm gonna try to let it ride to the end, even though I'm gonna want to stop.
Oh, this is where it gets good right here, man.
Oh, I know. So y'all, hey, if you're just tuning in, this is gonna be the best part. Yeah, here we go.
Those who are really in control, we don't even know their names. We will never know their names. And here's the secret to life right here. The ones that are in control are righteous and good. The world is controlled by righteous people. Those righteous people make you believe that they must be feared so you don't rob them and beat them and run up in the White House and demand justice. These people keep big security all around them. Why? Because they're scared. Anytime a president you're the president of a nation, but you need security to walk amongst your people, you ain't the president. Come on.
Is it people who are supposed to be righteous and good, or who are righteous and good?
No, are.
Oh.
They are. They are. This is physics. The nucleus is surrounded by the proton. Every piece of matter is positive. It's the negative charge that makes it stagnant. If we only had positive charges, you would talk to the chair and it would respond. It's the negative charge that makes the chair what it is. So if you can somehow sidestep the negative charges in matter, you'll change it. This is called alchemy. Another subject. Just to put a period here. So Freemasons are Freemasons and Illuminati is Illuminati. Illuminati means illuminated ones. There's nothing to fear there. But nerds always want you to fear them because they are afraid of you. Now, one of the big things I bring up about KRS One, I got fans in the FBI, and I know it. I seen them. I spoke to them. I got fans in the FBI. Cops pull me over, playing my record. They want to play the record on the thing. Whoop, whoop. And some of the bullies. Whoop, whoop. And some of the bullies, they pull me over for autographs. My reality is just a little bit different. journalists, agents, field agents, they come through. Here's the card, CIA, Central Intelligence Agency. You're like, wow, he bought the book. This is the world I'm in. I don't understand. Yo, Chris, they got the big brother. And yo, conspiracy. I don't know about. I'm the conspiracy that the Illuminati need to be worried about. I'm the conspiracy you need to be really worried about. Me worried about you? Or what some other, see, here we go. Again, and I just ended right here. Here we go. Don't listen to another person's purpose. The Illuminati is the Illuminati because they follow their purpose. Now, who are you? That's the question. We sitting around thinking, the minute you put Illuminati on your mind, they got you. The minute that's on your mind, because first of all, Illuminati don't even exist. It's a term we're throwing around for people we don't understand. And if you dig into the heart of any man, it is good. All people are suffering from problems that they face in their lives, and it comes out to us as corruption and evil. But if you know the truth, you know there's no such thing as corruption or evil in physical nature. So what is the real problem with people? The real problem is we have psychological disorders. We have depression. We have hungers and thirsts. We have losses. Just because you're the president don't mean you don't cry.
Yo, hey, do me a favor. Can you play back the last, I'll say 20 seconds of that? Can you play that real quick?
All right, let me see.
Yeah, if you can play like the last 25 seconds.
Because they follow their purpose. Now who are you?
Yeah.
That's the question. We sitting around thinking, the minute you put Illuminati on your mind, they got you. The minute that's on your mind, because first of all, Illuminati don't even exist. It's a term we're throwing around for people we don't understand. And if you dig into the heart of any man, it is good. All people are suffering from problems that they face in their lives, and it comes out to us as corruption and evil. But if you know the truth, you know there's no such thing as corruption or evil in physical nature. So what is the real problem with people? The real problem is we have psychological disorders.
Okay, there we go.
Depression. We have hungers and thirsts. We have losses. Just because you're the president don't mean you don't cry.
Okay, so I think here's what's interesting, right? So at the end, he says, you know, there is no corruption or evil because there's no corruption or evil in the physical universe, like in physics, right? So he presupposes that these terms let me back up, because prior to that, what kind of launches him on this last rant was the girl asked the question, are they
Great
good?
question.
It is a great question. Like, are they supposed to be good or are they good? He said, oh no, it's good. They're good. It's physics.
Right. Category mistake.
There we go. You're probably going to get into that. So actually, I'm not even going to go too deep, but I just think that's interesting. All right. So here's the thing. He says it's physics. And he starts going on this whole, rant about how you got the negative and the positive, and matter is positive, and so on and so forth. Well, that's very interesting. That's very interesting. The question then becomes, does he believe that the physical world is all there is, right? Because if he does, then what I'm going to argue is, regardless of what you want to do with protons and electrons, everything that you think and do comes down to some sort of physical event going on in your brain. It's like dominoes, like going back to the Big Bang. I'm saying everything is a physical consequence of what came.
Right. Dancing to the tune of your DNA.
That's it, right? So good and evil become, like, both of those terms are meaningless. It becomes meaningless to say that these people are good, because everybody is programmed to do what it is, that physics has determined them to do. If indeed it's physics. Because then that leads you to, if the universe is all there is, physical universe is all there is, then it leads you with physical determinism. And none of us are in control, including the people that he's talking about. But I mean, I got more to go on that, but I'm gonna let you do your thing, right? I'm
No,
trying it over
that's
here.
a perfect segue because I'm trying to even think where to go, man. Okay, so I'm gonna start here because I got to back up in my mind because I do want to contrast this in this particular video because I hope that some of those people in his audience, maybe even him, and definitely people watching this, get the dichotomy, or get not even dichotomy, get the comparison here. I was going to say, leaving aside his inability to explain truth while saying he has all access to truth or knows who does. Amir had pointed out that he says there's no corruption, and then 3 seconds later talks about all corruption in people's minds and stuff like that, which does, and no one balked. No one in the whole audience just went all over their head. And so I want us to not miss this. Right, BK. Let me back up. One thing that's unique about Christ is that he never claimed, and I've been telling this to a lot of people, Christ never claimed to have the truth. Christ claimed to be the truth. That's an ontological statement. That is a statement that is different than every other guru, every other prophet, every other leader that has ever lived. And that's before him and after him. And so let me put a couple things on the screen for you. So in John 14:6, there's a very famous passage that people tend probably know. Jesus comes and says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. And just so we can be very, very clear, because I know people are going to try to come back on this, there's something called the Granville-Sharp rule. And specifically number 6 of the Granville-Sharp rule. But the actual rule of Granville-Sharp is concerned with the use of the definite articles and copulative conjunctions in the New Testament. And so it's also called additive conjunctions. To keep it simple, the Granville-Sharp rule says that when two singular common nouns are used to describe a person, and those two nouns are joined by an additive conjunction, then both nouns refer to the same person. There's a reason I'm saying this, because for our non-Trinitarian friends out here, if you understand some basics about Greek, you can't make that conclusion without smuggling in your presupposition. It doesn't follow logically from the text. And I have the whole interlinear Bible here, which is the text that every translation is created from. So this is the starting point. And so I'm saying that because Jesus claims to be what others claim to have. That's a very important distinction. And so even when we look at like, if you want to see the Greek, that's the whole thing in the Greek. When Jesus says I'm the truth, that word aletheia means that what is true and in matter under consideration objectively. So we can try to weasel around stuff, but in the proper definition, because words have meanings, etymology matters, culture matters. We can't just redefine terms based on whatever worldview or ideology we want to affirm at that particular given moment. When Jesus says, I am the life, this word Zoe does not just mean, sorry, my screen is freezing up. Just to be alive. There's 2 words primarily in the Bible for Zoe. I'm sorry, for life. Amen, Shadi. Suke and Zoe. So Zoe is of the absolute, this is the definition, of the absolute fullness of life, both essential and ethical, which belongs to God. That is how the word is defined. Jesus knew, in other words, Jesus knew what he was saying. The disciples knew what they were hearing. Others knew what they were hearing, which is the reason they wanted to kill him, because he was making claims different and contrary to other claims that had been met. When he had the conversation with Pilate, those who are of the truth follow me. And Pilate said, what is truth? And he didn't even stick around to hear the answer from the one person on the planet that could answer that question. And so now you got people in this day and age sitting at the feet of this man because they don't do their homework. They don't read. And if they read a book, it don't have no bibliography, right? If they do read a book, it don't have no bibliography. And I'm simply giving you in 5 minutes a categorical ontological difference in the man Jesus Christ of Nazareth and everybody else who claims to be a guru, including KRS One. Every guru, every prophet, all the great awakening leader, all of them have one thing in common, several things, but one thing. They all make special claims or appeals to knowledge above your capacity to access. in some way, shape, or form. I got the Joseph Smith, Ellen G. White. Go down the list. They all make some kind of claim to have some gnosis that we talked about at the beginning. I have access to a special knowledge that you can only get from me, or you can only get from this group, the Illuminati, the free. You see what I'm saying? So when they trap knowledge to the point that you can't access it yet, but through them, well, now they got you. The Illuminati don't got you. They got KRS got you.
Right.
It's not about. So let me share. There's a couple.
Hey man, you mind if I just like nerd out on that right quick? Because I was thinking about like something you said. It kind of got me thinking.
Yeah.
Now, one or two things are going to happen here. I'm either going to say this and it's going to sound like gibberish, or it's going to be dope. I'm not really sure which one. But I mean, it just occurred to me just now. But I think it's interesting. I'm just going to throw it out for fun. So again, you said that Jesus, obviously, he claimed to be the truth. He didn't say I just have truth. He claimed to be the truth. All right. So there's an identity relation. Okay, to use that term, there's an identity relation between Jesus and the truth. Okay, now if by truth we're at least in the ballpark by saying the truth is that which corresponds to reality, then in order for Jesus to be the truth in the most transcendent sense, right, he would have to correspond to reality in the most transcendent sense.
Yep.
Truth, and in some sense, reality, truth and the reality that it refers to are two different things, right? But if we're talking about ultimate reality, you know what I'm saying, then I think what you're saying there would be some sort of intersection between the truth and the reality to which it refers. But that makes a lot of sense if you have like a Trinitarian understanding of the Godhead, because you have the truth. Now here's the other part of it too. I mean, because John 1:1, we get into referring to Jesus being the Logos, right? In the Hebraic tradition, we can talk about the Memra, because you got in the intertestamental period, you have the word Memra is used often. I'm saying it's referring to like this power in heaven, if you will. You know what I'm saying? That we can see iterated in John 1:1 as well. But nevertheless, if you have the truth being referent to ultimate reality, from a Trinitarian standpoint, that makes a whole lot of sense, because the only way that Jesus could be referent to the ultimate reality in every way, he would have to be as transcendent as that ultimate reality itself. Yeah. But then you can't be that without being God. You know what I'm saying? True. So in claiming to be the truth, in making that identity relation, what you then find is a divinity claim, like right there in your face. Right. You see what I'm saying? Exactly. You can't be the truth. You can't be the Logos, right, and not be God. Because in other words, if Jesus was in any way not completely referring to the ultimate reality, then he wouldn't be the truth. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Does that make any sense? I know, like I said, it was kind of churning while you were talking, but I just think it's kind of interesting.
It makes perfect sense. And like, so I want everybody, if you watch this now or watch this later, just don't at me until you wrestle with these ideas, because I'm giving you the original Greek and the wording. We're showing facts that both of us can't be right. And so when I say us, KRS One and us can't both be right. And we didn't really stop on this point earlier. He glossed over something earlier in that video. He said we're not going to get into the whole Christianity thing.
Oh yeah, right.
He kind of insinuated that has been superseded. That was just a blip on the radar of knowledge, right? Right. But to your point, if Christianity is true, it's the only thing that's true. Not because I say so, but because of the claims embedded in the nature and the person of Jesus and the work of Christ. There can't be further truth on top of that. Either it's true or it's false. Either he's true or he's false. Bottom line, we ride or die on that.
Simple as that.
It's simple as that. And so, I'm fine with my position in that regard. But I hope everybody else.
I thought that was hilarious too, man, because he said something about Akhenaten worshiping the sun, and I think it was right after that he said something about Christianity and blah blah blah. Now, this is conjecture on my part, but it almost seemed as though in his mind he's kind of making that connection between like the sun and then like the SUN and then the
SUN.
Sun.
Exactly.
I think that's probably where he was going in his head, but that's just conjecture on my part. Nevertheless, independent of Egypt, Hebrews, whatever, I'm saying, like, we've got sound evidence. I'm saying we can observe. This is what Romans 1 is all about. We've got sound evidence. I'm saying by general revelation, by which we can deduce that there is a God. And even indeed, I would argue you can deduce that there is a monotheistic God that exists in some sense or another. I'm saying,
Yeah.
And when I look at the various arguments that point to that being true, whether we're talking about the teleological arguments, anything from that family of arguments, we're talking about maybe arguments from the soul, various different things like that. The argument for morality, like you pointed out earlier, we can conclude rationally, I think, that there is a monotheistic God. And then when you stack that on top of the historical evidence for the resurrection and so forth, there's good reason to affirm that God was exemplified in Jesus Christ and all that comes along with that. So unless he can produce some grand evidence, that would outweigh all these independent arguments that we have, that buttress the Christian worldview. I mean, we've got no good reason to take his claim about not in Christianity seriously whatsoever.
Right. And if you all didn't see the last live I did with BK and Zion it was the atheist group that gave the middle finger to Christianity to end it once and for all that. And so all that aside,
how exactly is the middle finger going to end Christianity? By the way, what was the thinking there? Like, did they really feel like that gesture was going to just do us in? Like, oh no,
I don't know, man. BK shut down the whole middle finger idea anyway, because originally it was a worship to a deity. So it's kind of weird. But anyway, explaining that, in there, that's what I was going to say. And I'll say this again. I'm perfectly okay if somebody is saying I have reason. I'm okay in one sense. If somebody studies and reads and examines the claims, examines the historical evidence, and comes to a conclusion like, I just don't know if I can go all the way there with Jesus. But understand, the reason to be a Christian is because it's true. It's not because of a feeling. It's not because I say so. It's not because that's just I was born. It's not any of that stuff. If you show me evidence for a certain thing to be true, I'll investigate that. But if you ain't got no bibliography, like Adam said, let me help you if you ain't no bibliography. Right. Every guru of any kind, and let me show you just a couple examples. Swami Vivekananda, who was a Hindu or is a Hindu guru, it says work done rightly leads to freedom. Nice little quote, little pithy quotes. That's how they operate. Because you're like, oh, that's so deep. But it's also, if I think about slaves, I'm like, well, is that always true? If what you're saying to be true is not always true in every situation, then is it true?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Right? This one, he said, through the power of love, the senses become finer and higher. The perfect love is very rare in human relation, for human love is almost always interdependent and mutual. Now, I didn't have to do a lot of research. Let's do a thought experiment. If there is no object for your love, then by definition, you cannot love. Love requires two parties. Therefore, it is always interdependent, and true love is always mutual, hopefully. True love is always mutual.
It'd be great.
And right. So if I say the sentence, I love, that's an incomplete sentence. There's no object to love. Therefore, the statement, this thing that sounds so deep, is nonsense. But these nonsensical statements spoken to people who don't take the time to get over the allure of the person saying it, this passes. And guess what? Dude's worth $3 million now, $3 to $5 million off of this.
Hey man, you might have sold me on that. I might need to copyright. What's the word I'm looking for? Plagiarize his work, man. Get on that, bro.
Man,
right,
so
right.
Let me and I'll say a few other things on the ending here. You got to define your terms. I don't know if it was Shadi or somebody else, but before was saying the conscious community makes a living off not defining the terminology, because when it remains nebulous, you can't hold me to anything. The Illuminati is this group, and they do this and this, but they don't exist. Wait, what? You can't have both.
It's just a term that we're throwing around for people we don't understand. Now, here's the funny thing about it, though. He said that the Illuminati is a term that we throw around for people that we don't understand, right? Yet he was able to tell us a whole lot about them. If you think about it, he spent a good amount of time telling us that they're good, right? He told us that the reason why they want you to believe that you need to fear them is so that you won't mess with them and bother yourself. So he knows their intentions. He knows their reasons for doing things. He knows their character. He seems to know quite a bit about these people. He knows what they're capable of and what they're involved in. He knows that they're involved in funding wars and doing this and doing that. Like, he seems to know quite a bit about these people that you're not supposed to, that we don't know anything about. Like, he says that we don't know anything, even their names.
And they don't exist.
And they don't exist. Yet he can tell us all about their character, that they're really good, that they're actually good people, and they're the ones running stuff. I mean, come on, man.
So
it's crazy to me.
This is one epistemological flaw. Which is epistemology, is how you come to know something. And so our question is, how do you come to know that they don't exist and at the same time be able to explain who they are? This is the flaw of begging the question. That's why I said, y'all remember this, it's gonna come back up. He says other things about good. The girl asked a great question.
Yeah,
it was a great, and I think in her mind, she was like, well, if they're really good, why is all this stuff going on? Why are they funding wars, and why are they don't seem good? And so she asked a really great question, and he said, no, they are good, ontologically good. Their nature is good. In fact, he said, at the root of all of us, we're deep down, we're good. This is directly contradictory to the Christian, not just to the Christian message. One thing I respect about the Bible is it gets humanity right.
Yeah.
It doesn't sugarcoat. It doesn't try to make anything seem like what it's not. It tells you that your heart is wretched. Your heart is deceitfully wicked. Who can trust it? You don't know your own heart. In Jeremiah 17:9. And then the very next verse, it says, I, the Lord, search the heart. I test the mind. The perfect one, the one who is the source of truth, the one who is truth, tests those who are subject to trying to attain what bits we can attain of truth and ascribe to his nature and moral standard, which we fall drastically short at if we're being honest with ourselves. But y'all know my whole channel is called Relentless Pursuit of Purpose. And he said, you don't know your purpose, or whatever he said, but he misconstrues even what purpose is. I don't have time to get into that tonight. But first of all, you're telling this group that the Illuminati is the Illuminati because they know their purpose. But that's on the back of you saying they don't exist and we don't know who they are.
Right.
Like, bro, you got to keep
But they are good, though.
But they're good.
Whatever. Here's I want to come back to what some of you saying a minute ago. I've been reading this book by Clay Jones. Why does God allow evil? By Clay Jones. Really good book. It's an easy read, very real good stuff. And one of the things I like about it, he spent some time dealing with this notion that deep down, we're all good. And actually, I got a video coming up where I'm responding to somebody where I'm going to address this even further. But he breaks down, aside from the Christian worldview, just looking at human behavior, what we do, there's really no good reason to, just basically kind of go along with this, what we think is a truism that, deep down everybody's good, or deep down people are good. The fact of the matter is, there's really not much staring us in the face. I'm saying, in terms of the human experience and the world around us, that's more apparent than the fact that really we aren't good. Like we really aren't. You know what I'm saying? Like, but I think that we're so flippant in terms of how we use that term "good." Like, really, what we mean is kind of like basically not doing obviously bad stuff or doing things on a regular that's bad. But I think that we really don't fully appreciate, I'm saying, what it means to be good. I'm saying, and then at the same time, we don't really appreciate how far man is from that. But he talks about in this book how if you look at genocides, whether it be Rwanda, the Holocaust, the killing fields of Cambodia, so on and so forth. And he makes this really interesting point. The first time I heard him say it, I was like, dang, that's kind of true. He was like, man, the people that do these things, whether it be that soldier at Auschwitz, whether it be the person who's chopping people's arms off from Rwanda with the machetes, the people who are doing those things, those aren't like the psychopaths in society, right? It's the neighbor that you saw at the market the day before. And it's like, when you think about it, it's like, dang, like that's kind of true. You know what I'm saying? Like, when you look at the Holocaust, it wasn't just like a bunch of psychopaths, right? Who I mean, like, clinically speaking, like these people, like not all the however many soldiers Hitler had, they weren't all mentally ill. Right. You know what I mean? Clinically. Same thing when it comes to, again, like, whatever tragedy you want to name.
Right.
The people who are doing all this heinous evil, these aren't people who prior to that were just running around like locked up in Arkham Asylum, whatever, to use a Batman reference. They're what we would consider to be average, everyday people. So the fact of the matter is, mankind is far more capable of doing evil than we are generally comfortable with acknowledging. And by we, I mean society in general. Now, the Bible is pretty clear. Jesus said, "There's no one good but God." Then all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. There's none that does good. I mean, like the Bible is very clear about that and consistent about that. Then mankind is in bad shape. But if you enter into this deception that, oh yeah, we're just good, you know what I mean, and we're all deep down everybody's good, then like you were talking about, you haven't really understood mankind. Now I'm going to say this. Now I'm just for the sake of, because I know how people do, they want to clip that part out what I just said and take me out of context. Goodness, or what we think of as like moral goodness, isn't the foundation of our value.
Mm-hmm.
How good I behave is not the foundation of my value.
Right. The
foundation of my value is that I'm made in the image of God, and He conferred upon me goodness. I'm saying that's the foundation. So my dignity, my baseline of dignity, isn't undermined, I'm saying, by my behavior. Now, my moral fiber might be, my character might be, is undermined if I'm doing a bunch of dirt. But I think people want to hold on to this idea that, oh no, deep down everybody's good, because they do that in order to preserve some sense of human dignity. But what they don't realize is our human dignity has deeper roots than our behavior. You know what I'm saying? And we ought not to muddy the lines between the two. But I'll leave that as it is right now. I'm going to do a whole video on it coming up pretty soon.
Hey, y'all check that out because I need to check that out myself. Yes, Shadi, we know that sucks because they be saying all kind of stuff over there. Listen, as far as purpose, the only thing I will say, purpose is defined as the original intent. And so the what's the original intent of this chair from the mind of the manufacturer? And I use this joke, forgive my crassness if this is, I sit on a toilet, I sit on a chair. If I go to my friend's house and I confuse the original, or I confuse the intent for one of those, I won't get invited back. So knowing the purpose for something.
Bro, you're definitely not invited to my crib if we can't establish the difference between the toilet and the chair. Let's just, like, you're not getting the first invite if I'm not confident that you can distinguish between the two. That's all stop.
Right. But wait, we sit on both of them. What's the difference? Because there is a difference. Because in the mind of the manufacturer, and even the word manual, it means mind of the maker. When you get a product, the mind of the maker is putting that on paper for you to read what was in their mind. I can go a lot deeper on that. But the point is this: if we look at the Bible in that same vein, the mind of the maker, of our image that we're created in, He put in the corpus of Scripture the original intent for who we are and how we're supposed to be and how we're supposed to operate. So let's leave that aside for a second. How does someone in a non-theistic, non-Christian framework even know the original intent for you if A, you don't posit a maker, or B, you don't have any access to that maker? You see what I'm saying? Like, you cut your own feet out from under you. You can't know your true purpose. And this is the whole purpose of my channel.
That's good.
You see what I'm trying to say? Like, I know I ground purpose. I know in the society it's become this buzzword. Not here. All right. The reality is purpose does have an ontological reality to it. And part of the goal of what I want to do in various ways is help people discover their purpose. But that has to start with getting a confirmed relationship with the one who gave it to them. So I've done other videos on that. I'm gonna do some more in the future, but I just wanted to say that and just point out to everybody. And let me leave us with this. Maybe I encourage everyone, don't fall for the okie doke, y'all.
Right.
Now, I know most in the comments you're not, but you know some people. Show them this video, send it to them. You know, we all know people out there that will listen to that video that we played, and they're like, "Oh man, y'all see this man? He got the knowledge, he got the truth." Don't fall for the okie doke. If we're honest with ourselves, we know, like Adam said, our heart, our desires are not always, maybe not often, pure. Yeah. And therefore, we need one who is perfect to purify our hearts and minds And only God can do that. So I beg you to put your trust in him so that he can do what you and I could never do for ourselves. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. So
That's great.
There was a good standard. Absolutely, Shadi. We got to do a whole other video on that though.
Yeah. That's good.
So I appreciate y'all, especially the super chats. And I appreciate
congratulations once again, man. You know,
thank you,
reaching that 1,000, bro. That's dope, man.
Thank you, man. And I appreciate everybody for rocking with me for this last year or so that I've been trying to grow and do this. But also, I'm getting back out there live and in person. If your church or somewhere wants to host an apologetics workshop or any kind of speaking engagement for me to come in, I'm ready and willing to go. Matter of fact, we got an event here in Chicago next month with my brother Adam and my other brother Brandon. So if you're
man, I'm looking forward to it, bro. Like I'm gonna be doing, for anybody who hasn't registered yet, please do attend. I'm gonna be doing a 3-hour presentation on the truths of Masonic, the Masonic Temple, and the Illuminati.
He will not be doing that. But no,
man, seriously, it's gonna be a great opportunity, man, to get out, have some great fellowship and just learn how to defend the faith, man. You know what I'm saying? How to ground and defend the faith, bro. I'm definitely looking forward to it.
Amen. Me too. And I specifically want to target youth and young adults. So if you have youth, young adults, or vice versa, or you are, if they're close or they can get here, please come through. You can go to my Facebook page and find more information. We're actually going to be going live tomorrow morning, so you'll get some more details there if you follow me on Facebook. With that being said, I appreciate y'all. And until next time, got a very special episode tomorrow morning with a brother behind a pastor in Pakistan. So this is going to be a special episode tomorrow morning because it's nighttime for them. So that's when I had to do it. So tune in for that. And I know Adam has some stuff he's dropping. He already told you about the video he's working on with the morality or a version of a part of the morality argument.
Well, actually, you know what, man? I know I joke around a lot, about, I mean, we go back and forth with a lot of people with these conscious community dudes and stuff like that. But I do think that apologetics, urban apologetics, whatever, is more than about, mic drop moments, I'm saying, and just getting back at people. And we need to do a good job at coming alongside people to help them think through difficult topics. So actually what I'm going to be doing a segment on addressing supposed problematic passages in the scriptures. What is a way that we can understand and convey to others how to navigate those passages where you come across them and kind of cringe, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people don't know what to do with the cringe. And so I want to kind of work our way through that and hopefully be able to knock it out in an hour. So y'all know how I get down, talking, but I'm going to try to keep it to an hour. But I think I've been taking some notes and putting together a lesson on that I think will help a lot of people. And it just so happens that it's in response to a recent segment that I had with Brother Jabari and Kevin Wesley actually did a little response to it. It was just hilarious to me. But anyway, I'll be incorporating some of his clips to illustrate the logical missteps that many people make when trying to leverage supposed problematic passages against the scriptures. So we got that coming up. And actually Saturday, we probably won't air it till next week, but I'm about to record something with the brother Veda Hedgeman, man. He's going to be coming on the channel, and we're going to be tapping into culture a little bit. We're going to be getting into some music and just kind of analyzing some lyrics from a album that just dropped. I'm not going to say what it is, but an album that just dropped, secular album. And we're going to kind of break down, similar to what we did tonight, just kind of breaking down some of the philosophical points that can be gleaned from it. And or challenged even. So got that dropping probably next week. Yep.
Amen. Well, with that being said, I appreciate you as always, Adam. And I appreciate everybody who has supported and continues to support what I'm trying to do here. We're not out to be gurus. We're out to point you to the one and true and living God. Amen. All right. So until next time, peace.